Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Welcome. Good day, good day, good day. Thank you. I see you. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on board. Just give me a few minutes. I'll bring you on. Just wait for more people to join us, and I'll just say a brief word. Then I'll bring you up. Thank you for coming in, Helly. We appreciate that. Welcome to ABIS Chat. Wherever you're watching this from, whatever city, whatever country, whatever town, whatever continent, whatever part of the world you're watching from, whatever time zone you're watching this, I say welcome to ABIS Chat. It's a very great honor to have you live, to have you here with us, and I know that tonight or today is going to be another day, another inspirational chat for you, and I know and believe that you're going to live here better, that your life will be impacted in one way or the other, that it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be wonderful. Our guest is already here, and we are so delighted to have her with us, and I know that tonight will be an awesome night, just like we've always had. Like we always do, I'm person of faith, and I would like to just say a word of prayer before we kick in. If you don't mind, can you join me and let us pray? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another great episode of ABIS Chat. Thank you for what you're going to do tonight. Thank you because we know that yes, you're going to use us mightily to at least reach out to someone out there, and that our lives will be better, transformed, and will be impacted by your grace. Thank you, Lord. For in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 So welcome to ABIS Chat. I'll just give a brief introduction of what ABIS is all about. Then we'll bring our guest on board. Then we'll jump right in. ABIS is just an acronym. ABIS Chat. ABIS is just ABIS, and it's A is an acronym. A stands for adversity, B stands for blessing, and the highest part of it stands for inspiration. Adversity, what does adversity mean? Adversity means difficulties and life challenges we all go through. We as human beings, I would like you to know that whatever you're going through, you're not the first person to go through it, and you certainly will not be the last person to go through it. So through it all, we are all going through one thing or the other, one challenge or the other. But one thing I like to assure you, that no matter what you're going through, whatever difficulty it is, it's going to come to an end. Every difficulty comes to an end, and that's where the blessing part of it comes to. Every adversity always ends in a blessing. Every challenge ends in a blessing. Obstacle hence in a blessing. So I want you to know that whatever you're going through is going to end in a blessing, and that's the B part of it. So every adversity, every life difficulty ends in a blessing, and through that process we have the inspiration part of it. Everything you're going through today, tomorrow will surely be a blessing. It's going to be a blessing, and through it all you're going to learn one or two things that will serve as a lesson for yourself and as some other people that are around you. And that's where we come on this platform. So ABIS Chat is a platform whereby we bring people to come and share some of their life experiences, to inspire us, to let us know that no matter what we are going through, that we're going to come out champion on the other side, that no matter what you're going through, that if they can survive it, that you are going to survive it, that if they can come through better refined through the help of God and through the help of all the people around them and all the ways of they were able to come out of it, which they'll be sharing with us, then you too can surely come out of whatever you're going through. So tonight is going to be another episode. I want you to sit back and relax, and I want you to know that yes, we're going to have a good time tonight. And with joy, can you please join me as I welcome Mrs Anita Adefuye. She'll be here with us in a minute. Thank you for everyone that's joined. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Sure.
Hello.
Okay. Hi. Good evening.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a great honor to have you. How was your day?
Yeah. Good, good. Thanks.
Wonderful,
Happy
wonderful.
Father's Day to you.
Yes, I forgot to mention now. Please happy Father Day to all of you as watching this. Those all fathers out there, we celebrate or we appreciate what you do, and we know that yes, we on ABIS chat we're saying thank you. Keep being a father, keep being a role model. God bless you all.
Amen.
Yes, welcome to ABIS chat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we start, I saw your post yesterday, and I got shocked. I was like, okay, so today is gonna be a good day. I'm ready. Hopefully, everybody out there is ready. Okay, I don't
Hopefully.
want to really let the cat out of the bag. So, what will you be sharing with us tonight?
So tonight I will be sharing about the day I died. Um,
You mean
yeah,
died later, died completely physically?
close enough, but no, not in a physical death. So the day I died. And yeah, so that's what I'll be sharing and what came out of it. And as a matter of fact, it even plays very, it ties very beautifully into what ABIS stands for, adversity, blessing, inspiration. And I think tonight what we're going to hear is how that day, that I'm talking about here actually, you know, overflows into things that are going on with me today and what God is, doing with me for today. So that's what I'll be sharing. Um, so do I just go ahead
Oh,
or
let's go right
whenever
into it.
I'm
So,
okay?
how did that day come about? What happened on that day? We want to.
So that day, I was supposed to be preparing for an exam. I had exams to prepare for in a couple days,
Okay.
and I was seeing this guy. I was in school. I was 17. I was an undergraduate student. I was in my first year. I was just wrapping up my first year of school, and we were supposed to go read together. And he had mentioned saying he was sick. And so I thought to say, okay, you're sick. Do you need me to bring you something? And he said, oh, thank you. Hi, Tinabi. It's hard to tell people's names who is who on Instagram. So sorry.
No worries, no
But
worries.
thank you for coming and thank you.
Thank you.
So I had offered to cook something. He said, no, that's fine. Oh, great. And so I figured, okay, I am the one that has the exam. Let me go read by myself. And then I went off to a classroom and the guy was there closing up with a girl. And I figured, wow, you were sick, you know. And,
Wait,
I remember calling.
sorry. Let's play that back a little. Let's play that back a little. The guy was sick. He told you he was sick.
Yeah, he said he was sick.
You
He said he
offered
was sick.
to bring something for him.
Yep. Yes.
Then you met him with another
At the
person.
classroom where I was supposed to be reading. And yeah, it was heartbreaking. And, like, I'm not sure what happened to me that night, and I remember just even, it was just a flash of the folly of my life. I think in a split second just unveiled before me. Now, I'll back up a little bit because
Oh,
okay, before I even back up, and so just seeing that picture, I called him, how you doing? He was like, oh, I'm still shivering, but I'm sure I'll be fine, and they were laughing. And, I felt like I was 17, like I said, it was my first year in school. I was very naive, and to be honest, before that point, I'd been through a lot in life. Yes. At 17, there was a lot of things. I'd lost my dad, I'd heard my mom was sick. I couldn't see my mom. There were family issues, so it was a really tough time for me. And my academics was the only thing I really had going on for me at the time. I was, it was my safe space.
wow.
And so, it was just a flash of, the sorry state of my life, just happened. And I remember crying so hard, and I decided that night that I wanted to end my life. So I know people will think and say, wow, you want to end your life because of a guy. But no, it wasn't about this guy. So here's where I get to back up a little bit because, like I mentioned, I had already lost my dad. Just shortly after I gained admission into the university, I lost my dad. There was a lot going on in my family. I was supposed to be with an uncle who the family had said, "Oh, be with him so he keeps an eye out for you."
Okay.
And this uncle, what they didn't know, I eventually left his house and went back into school. And everybody was, calling and saying, "You're just being rebellious. You're just doing this." What they did not know was that this man was consistently trying to rape me.
Ooh.
And so I ran out of his house, when he came close a number of times. And because I was someone who was trying to numb so much pain, I drank a lot, and I remember one of those nights I had drank too much and he was so close to taking advantage of me. I feel, in fact, I feel like he probably did something to me, but I remember just fighting my way through and running into the shower and locking up the door. He was banging the door, but I somehow, God help me, I poured cold water over my body. So there were all those issues that were going on, and there was so much that had happened, up to that point. And I'd been suicidal for since maybe, like, for instance, I was about 11 years old at that time. So it had nothing to do with the guy per se. It was just that night, something just triggered that in me again. And I figured, you know what, I had thought about ending my life for so long, and tonight was that night.
Okay. Before you go further, wow. I would like to say, sorry for those times, but I'm happy you came out stronger and better. Now, let's address people who are currently going through emotional trauma, because I see a list of things that you've been through. I see a lot of emotional, so for people out there going through one emotional trouble or the other, is there anything you advise them with, because from your own experience, sorry, we might be too forward, maybe we're way too forward.
No, it's okay.
But what would you say at that point? What how can you summarize that point for someone going through something like that? What would you tell them? You've gone out of it and you're better now. You're stronger. You've learned. You saw it. What will you be? What will you tell them? What will you tell them?
Well, what I'll tell them is the truth is, and again, you're right. We kind of jumped the gun, but that's okay. Because I'll probably still touch on a number of things. Because the truth is, one thing I think I've learned is, which is why I said I like what ABIS stands for, because what I want to share tonight just really ties so beautifully well into what you stand for. Is that things happen in our lives, and at those moments when we're going through those things, to be honest, it can be really overwhelming, to be honest. Sometimes I remember when about 3 kids committed suicide sometime somewhere in Saskatchewan, and I remember someone made a statement to say, what does an 11-year-old or a 13-year-old know that would make them commit suicide? I remember just thinking within myself to say a lot, because so many things can happen to an 11-year-old that they would never tell you, right? So much can happen. And at those moments when we're going through those things, the truth is that it can be really overwhelming. It can be really, and the sad reality is you're a Christian, Abby, and I'm a Christian too. The sad reality is these are things we don't talk about in church, right? Because ideally, church should be able to help people. All right. But sadly enough, maybe because we're so spiritual, these things sound like it makes you look weak.
True.
Right. So the first thing, and that's what my first point would be, is to say that when life happens to you, it is okay to feel sad. It is okay to feel grief. It is okay to feel pain. Jesus felt pain. He did not try to hide it. The Bible talks about the fact that he went out to God and said, if it were possible, let this pass over me, right? But he admitted that, God, this is too much for me. I can't bear this, right? So first things first, it's okay. Life happened to you. You have, God gave us emotions for a reason, so that when we're hurt, we can say, God, I'm hurt. True. I have a scripture that I like very much. It's 62. Okay, now I have it mixed up. I think it's 62:8, where it says that pour out your trust in the Lord and pour out your heart before Him. I've paraphrased it to my personalized it so much I can't remember what it really says, right? And for me, I took that scripture very literal, where if I felt sad, I will tell you I felt sad. If I felt angry, I will tell you I felt angry. Now, I know that goes against faith confessions and things, so to speak, right? But you don't end it there. It's that when you're finished feeling sad, when you're finished admitting the emotions, When you're finished telling yourself it's okay for me to cry, when you're finished telling yourself it's okay for me to feel sad, when you're finished telling yourself it's okay, I went through something, right? When all is said and done is to now then seek help. If need be, seek help. Now, seeking help can be professional, where you're seeing a therapist. Seeking help can be opening up to, say, your husband or your wife. Seeking help can be opening up to your parents. It can be opening up to a friend. It can be opening up to a pastor. It can be anybody that is trustworthy and that would not, just try to downplay your emotions, because that can add more layer of hurt to what is already going on with the person. But seeking help would mean that you're talking to someone. I'll tell you something that happened. I know that this sounds like something that happened very far off, but the truth is, sometime in 2018, and this might come as a shocker to people at my church, sometime in 2018, the suicidal thoughts returned. Yes. Even for you, it should be a shocker because we're taking classes together, right?
And sorry, I have to just come into it. Most times we appear so strong that people don't really know what we're going through.
Exactly.
We carry our face so strong.
Yeah.
In us, there's something yearning for help, like
exactly
help. But
yeah. And I am number one guilty as charged. I am number one guilty as charged. I can literally be in a place and I'm literally breaking down, and people around me would not know unless I tell them. And I remember, and that's even part of the pain that sometimes come with, even when I hear someone commit suicide or someone, is in a state where something happens to them in that sense. It can be really painful to people around them as well, because the truth is, people around you are thinking. I remember the day I opened up to my husband and I said, this is going on with me. But one of the things that he said was, how am I under the same roof with you? And I did not even see this. The truth is, he couldn't because I maxed it up so well. I smile. When I get to the office is when I cry. All right. I lock up myself in the bathroom. That's where I cry. After I finish having a good cry, I will clear up my face, wash up my face, come out, and then I'm all smiles again. But the truth is, wow. And that's another thing that I'll say to someone going through any emotional turmoil is, don't try to internalize it. So first of all, admit and say, I'm feeling this way. Secondly, admit and say, I'm feeling this way. Secondly, when you're done admitting your feelings, is get help if you need to, right? And find a support system. Don't internalize it, right? Don't internalize it, because the truth is, the more we internalize it, the more we start reinterpreting the events in our minds. And when we interpret the events in our minds, it starts to look, much bigger than it really is. And then, so don't internalize it. Don't get help. Speak up, speak out. Okay. It's not ever, and sometimes I remember even like in 2018, when those thoughts started coming back and it was really starting to just drain me, I couldn't really tell anybody anything, but I remember just texting someone and saying, please pray for me. Right. And luckily, she didn't even try to ask to say what's going on or what's not going on. She just said, noted. And I really could tell that she was praying for me, because there were times when it's almost like all these thoughts just try to really get into my mind. And then I just sometimes have this sense of peace in the midst of that turmoil. All right. So don't internalize, get help, admit what you're feeling. And then the other thing is that, just this one might seem a little vague, but the truth is, sort of hang in there, kind of. I know hang in there doesn't necessarily mean do absolutely nothing. I've talked about getting help and all of that, right? Because the truth is, sometimes those things are just for a season. It's just at those moments when we're going through it, it feels like there is no end. Can you hear me? Because I feel like I'm frozen here.
Yeah, it's you're talking. I can hear you, but your video is frozen, so it's just circling as if it's low.
Oh, okay.
Should I cut and call? Will you cut and connect back? So maybe we'll have a clearer video.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Wow. So to everyone listening out there, I would like to let you know that from what you can hear from our guest, if you're going through one emotional challenge or the other, I would like you to know that you're not there alone. Please, 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 please. First of all, admit it. Second of all, seek help. Seek help from people around, from professionals around. Please, please, you're not in it alone. And it's for a season. Wow. So whatever you're going through is for a season. Just believe and just hang in there. Be positive in the midst of it that yes, you're going to come out of it. Well, you know what? You know, I would like us to continue from where we earlier started because the more you keep talking, the more questions I just want to keep flowing from me, and we might end up not even saying much about what you really want to say. So
Yeah, it's okay.
Let's go back to that night.
Okay.
That night because some people joined us late. So can we just flash
Yeah.
back what happened when you saw the incident and then we move on from there.
Yeah, so I saw the guy that claimed that he was sick, and then all those emotions of everything that I had been through came rushing back. Before that point, I think one of my coping mechanisms that I had adopted was just suppressing the emotions and just kind of blanking it out of my mind. And where you don't let it, it's somewhere there, but you're not letting it out to the surface, right? And so I think that incident and just the pain that I was feeling at that moment triggered it, and I couldn't. It was like just everything just exploded, and it was a mix and rush of emotions, and there were all these flashing images in my mind. And I remember just running to my faculty. Those who know about me at World University, I ran from Odd 1 to admin faculty. And I remember just sitting, honestly, I can't, all I know is Odd 1 was somewhere way off from everywhere else, and I remember just getting there, and I sat down there and I cried my heart out. And I said, this is it. Now, if I remember correctly, I think all the pharmacies in OAE at the time used to, or at least most of them, used to run for about 24 hours, or at least there were some of them. And so I started going from pharmacy to pharmacy, and I was looking for what we call otapiapia. So I was looking for that, and the plan was to just take, yes, that night. It was about 1 to 2 a.m., somewhere around that time. And I was looking for, this medicine to buy, and I wanted to just, for those who don't know, that is something we used to, I think it's an actual medicine, but then we kind of take out the powder and it kills rats.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just, and the plan was to overdose on that. And I walked around all the pharmacies, none was open. And I finally found this one that was open, and I got there and I said to the man, I'd like to buy this medicine and I want this much. He just looked at me and said, I'm sorry, I'm not selling to you, not tonight. Come back tomorrow when you're all better. As if he knew I was up to something. I was so pissed. I stood there. I insulted this man. He was probably older than my father. I insulted everything in him, his entire generation. And then I walked off. And then I was just walking right in the middle of the road, hoping that a vehicle would just come and hit me. Nothing happened. No vehicle showed up. All the drunk boys that like to drive rough in school, they all went on vacation that night, I think.
Wow.
And so I got to my hostel and I took a knife. And I started deliberating because I didn't want to go in so much pain. So I started thinking what alternatives I had. But I was very determined. And it wasn't the first time I had tried to kill myself. But that night I was really determined that this was it. And so I took a knife and I sat down on my bed. It was a bunk. My bunkmate was sleeping. I went up to my bed and I sat there and I held this knife and I started thinking to say, should I just stab? What can I stab? That would be a quick death. And I looked around the room if there was any other alternative that I could think of. I couldn't walk back to wherever there were high-rise buildings to just jump down. I was looking for the less painful way to go. And then, eventually I decided, okay, it was going to be the knife. And then I was just about to stab when a thought came to mind to say, how fair do you think it will be to your roommates to find out that you killed yourself while they were sleeping, and to find you in a pool of your own blood when you wake up. So I said, okay, fine, whatever. Now, at this point, I wasn't a Christian. As a matter of fact, at that moment in my life, I hated God so much, so much. I figured it was his fault. My father died. I figured that, yeah, so I figured that I had been through, I figured I had been through, yeah, go ahead. It's okay.
Sorry. You're going to continue that. You're going to continue that. Let's address, I think you raised something. There are these people that they just don't like God based on maybe their past experience, which you're already touching. So can you give, you're already saying it. So what did you think? Was it that all those factors played into it, or what caused that for you? Go ahead. Sorry, because you already answering.
So a number of things, really, a number of things. So I had a really, really rough life, so to speak. I didn't live with my parents under one roof. I don't think my parents were never exactly married. For as long as I knew them, they had issues. I lived with my grandparents, and then an auntie who was physically abusive, and then my dad. And then from the ages of, I think, 7 to 17, I was repeatedly sexually abused. And so I remember, even as a child, just sometimes praying to God to say, just make it stop. All right? And it didn't stop. It didn't. All right. And a number of those abuses were right under my roof, and so it felt really like God had abandoned me and I needed him. Now, the weird thing was there was just always this nagging feeling that there was someone watching over me. And that was why I'd not even given up life, so to speak. And then when my dad was sick, I remember just fervently really just praying and saying, God, just keep him. All right, just keep him. We fasted, we prayed, we did everything, and he still went. In fact, the day we called the fast was the night he died. And so for me, it was like, okay, this is it. Everything else, I can still forgive you, God, if you are there. And it's weird because one of the last things my father had said, my father himself also, in the latter end of his life, didn't believe in God, but on his deathbed, one of the last things he had said to me was, I'm sorry if I led you to believe that God doesn't exist. He exists, and I want you to find him, and I want you to hold on to him. So here I was watching this man who didn't believe in God all his life tell me about believing in a God while he is dying. And I pray to this God to say, okay, now he believes. If he can believe, then save him, so that we can all work this out when all this is over, right? Yeah. And the very day we called the fast was the day he dies. So for me, it was like, that's it. There's no God. He doesn't exist. All right? And so I carried that pain and that anger against God for the longest time until that night, and at that night when everything happened, it was like, okay, this is it. And if I remember even just thinking in my mind to say, I want to die, and then I'm coming to meet you, this God, and let's settle this once and for all.
So you want to face the pioneer that night.
Exactly. Wow. I was ready to say, God, if whatever it takes, it's you and I. Oh. Yeah. So I know that somehow that also plays it. And most times when people say there is no God, the truth is sometimes it comes from all those places of hurt. They may never admit to you, but when you dig deep, it would feel like God let me down at a point in my life. My way of sticking it to him is to now go about saying he doesn't exist. But not a lot of people would admit that, right? But the truth is, for me, in retrospect, I realized that it wasn't because I didn't, there were times that I felt God, right? Even though I had not accepted him, I had not believed in him. But I knew that he existed. But I just refused to let myself admit it because I was hurt by him in my mind, and it was my way of seeking it back to him to say, and I try to convince anybody who cared to listen that he doesn't exist. I will convince you, I would hold an argument with you, but it didn't take long to figure out that he does really exist, right? And, so yeah. So back to that night,
Yeah.
I even though I didn't believe in God, by the time I figured, okay, I'm not going to use the knife to kill.
So the video is frozen again.
It's back again. Oh, okay. Instagram troubles. I can go out and come back in.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. So to everyone watching, I hope you're picking up one thing or the other. I would like to say thank you for joining tonight. Our guest has been talking so far about the day she almost took her life. It was a very dramatic night. Please, hope she'll be coming back soon and we can continue from there where she stopped.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Are we good?
Better.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. So yeah. So when I decided that I wasn't killing myself with a knife, I figured, you know what? I'm just gonna sleep this one out, and then we'll continue from where we stopped the next day. So even though I didn't believe in God, I decided to test him one more time, and I said, God, I feel like you're out there, and I feel like you're watching me right now. So here's one deal. Let me sleep, and I don't want to wake up tomorrow. So I don't have to deal with, I don't have to have people deal with me killing myself. And so I slept. I slept what Jesus called, what one of my friends called the sleep of sorrow. And I slept.
Traumatic night for you.
Yeah. So I slept, and I woke up the next day. My eyes opened. And the day I opened up my eyes, I was like, oh, I guess you're a coward, God. You could not even take my life. Those were the words that came out of my mouth. And before I slept, I kind of stumbled on my Bible, by the way. Yes, I had a Bible.
So your Bible was right behind you, right beside you.
It was always under my pillow. I don't believe in God. I did not believe in God, but I had a Bible because it was given to me by my auntie for getting admission into university. So I always had the Bible under my pillow. And so that night, before I slept, I brought her the Bible. I looked at it, and then that was when I remembered that, oh, there's this God. So I prayed to him and said, take my life. I don't want to do this anymore. So when I woke up the next day, I found that I was hugging the Bible. And so in annoyance, I just dropped it, and then I tried to roll over, and the Bible fell and opened up. I got down from my bed. I wasn't trying to read the Bible, but then something caught my eye. It was Jeremiah 29:11. And he read, for I know the plans that I have towards you, thoughts of good and not of evil, to give you hope and a future. There was something about those words, and I felt like God was right there in that moment, right? And and I felt like I heard him say to me, I know you feel like I don't love you and I don't care, but I've always been there for you. If only you know what I have in store for you. I heard those words, then I didn't know it was God speaking to me, right? Now I know. But then I didn't know, but it felt like someone was right there just talking to me. And there was this peace and calm that, that just overwhelmed me. And I stood there, I sat back on my bed, and I look out the window. I see a lady, Dupe Akinsiu, then she was Dupe Osho. She was walking towards my room. She always came to my room every Sunday morning to invite me to cell meetings. And usually as she's coming in the front door, I'm running out the back door. That morning, I was so tired, I could not even run. I just stood there and I just watched her come in. And she just said, so are you going to run today? Are you going to go for sale? I didn't argue. I just took the Bible and I just walked off with her. As I was walking into cell, the person preaching was just quoting Jeremiah 29:11 as I walked in. And I sat there listening to this lady, and then she was just talking about whatever you've been through. And then she shared literally everything that sounded like my life story. And I'm like, did someone say something to these people? I don't get what's going on. And then they asked me to say, should we pick you up for church later today? And I said, sure, whatever. I didn't fight it. I went to church. Pastor is preaching. Guess where he preaches from? Right. Jeremiah 29:11.
And then the confirmation.
After a while, I just couldn't help it anymore. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Is this what you want? Is this okay? Fine, you win. God, you win. This is it. I'm going to give my life. And I remember just walking down that aisle. I cried like everything I had bottled up all those years. Everything just came out. I cried my heart out. I cried everything out, and I gave my life to Christ. So for me, this story is about the day I died, is what I call it, right? But that day, I indeed did die to myself, but I found life while seeking death, right? Because the truth is, sometimes I wonder if anything else would have sufficed to get me to that point with God, and I really thank God for how he got me and how he helped me to just come out of it, all right? Because the truth is, and it didn't end there. The suicidal thoughts, to be honest, did not end there. Even after I became a Christian, there were times that I still struggled with it. There were times that I still struggled with depression. There were times that I still struggled with a number of things. I'm frozen again, right?
Yeah, it's frozen again. It's frozen again. Sorry.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, sorry for that. Sorry for that. Wow. Thanks to everyone who has joined tonight. If you have any comment, you have any question, please feel free to post it in the comment box. I hope you are enjoying our conversation tonight so far. Yeah, so our guests will be coming back up, and we'll continue.
Welcome back.
Yes. So before you continue, there's this question that came to my mind. I would want to ask you. Now, you had a actual experience of what I want to ask. So maybe you share from your own knowledge of perspective of what you've been through. There's this thing. Our life experiences. How much does it play in leading us to where God wants to take us to? What do I mean by that? Some people right now, they're going through a lot, right? And maybe let's say they haven't seen the light. And some people have seen the light, but they have not come to accept the fact that the light I came to see, which is Christ, which I know you also found in your story, was as a result of my experience. What do I mean by that? The scripture says, Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and accord according to his purpose. Meaning that, there's this, I want to say, it's a view that I believe that no matter what you're going through, what you are going through now, it leads you towards something. God is on. God used our life experiences to bring us to where he wants to bring us to. For example, see what you've been through. Some people might not even go through half of what you went through. Some might even be more than what you went through. But how do you think that? And this is for both those who are believers and who have come to know Jesus and have not come to know Jesus. Some people, even though after they've been through the experiences, they forget to accept it as part of their journey. When you have accepted it that yes, it was a day you almost died. But it was a death, literally, that led, not literal death, but it was an experience that led you to a better experience. So it made you embrace the story that, yes, it was the way God came to me. What role does that play? Because we want to address people who are going through those things, but want to open their eyes to see that, no matter what you're going through, God is working in it to bring it to a better goal. And to those who have been through it, it was part of your experience that God used to bring you to a better goal. What will you say about that?
Okay, so you raise a very valid question and a very valid point. And to be honest, I struggled with that too for a long time. And so in 2018, when the suicidal thoughts returned, one thing I realized looking back now was that I think God was trying to get me to the point to say, own your story, own your life, own your experiences. And I struggled with it. Now, before I even answer your question, I want to explain some of the reasons why people can't even come to the point where they own these things. Number one, it's our culture, especially as Nigerians, especially as Africans, and yes, even especially as Christians. So when you now combine being an African with being a Christian, with being a Nigerian, it's just layers to of barriers to not talking about these things. I can't tell you countless times that maybe I've been in a church setting and someone raises a question or says something, and then I just say, oh, let's think of this from a different perspective. I've been abused before, and then all of a sudden you can just feel the chillness in the room, right? And people start to treat you differently all of a sudden. And then you get to the point where, you just don't want to talk anymore, because it's like, okay, let's just all pretend like nothing happened to us. We all just got born again, and then everything was kumbaya from that point, right? We didn't struggle. Until for me, God got me to the point where, he helped me see that there's a reason why we have stories of people in the Bible who were total failures. Yeah. It wasn't just so that we can only talk about the victories they had. There's a reason why their weaknesses were put in there. There's a reason why they're failures. There's a reason why God had to let us know that Elijah, even after all that he had experienced with God's power, still got back to the point where he was now praying like me to say, God, end my life.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And by the time God started helping me see those things in the scriptures and even in the lives of other people, one person that I know that God really used to help me, come out of the mindset of being abused sexually was Joyce Meyer. But imagine if she never shared her story.
True.
I won't be here, because I remember after I got born again and I was still battling with low self-esteem because I'd been abused repeatedly. Every time I listened to Joyce, I remember one day just watching her. I used to watch Enjoying Everyday Living. I can't remember her title, every morning. And I'm standing in front of the TV. I'm watching her. I remember one day I just started praying in tongues and I said, God, one day this is me sharing my story. Unashamed, whole, healed, and helping others heal. I remember saying that. I remember standing in front of the TV and just watching her talk and talking about this thing. And she didn't have a single drop of tear in her eye when she was sharing the story. Because I was at that point where I couldn't share without crying. When I start sharing, I just start bawling. And you know that it's just tell signs of that the pain and the hurt is still very much there, right? So our culture doesn't let us want to talk about these things. The church doesn't really exactly talk about these things. When certain things happen, we get reactionary, and then we're like, oh, let's pray about this. Let's pray about this. But then that euphoria wears off until the next incident. All right. But if we're going to be serious about this, we have to realize that there is a role that we as the church have to play in the lives of people in those things. So there was that silence of culture. There was that silence of, just not talking about these things that even for me held me back for the longest time. Wow. Now, what happened in 2018 that made me start thinking suicidal again was I did not realize, but I started gradually falling into the trap of depression again until these thoughts started returning. And it felt like 2006, which was when, the initial incident happened. It felt like that period all over again. And I remember just one day I was at work and I was just funny. I guess I was having what people would call panic attack, to be honest. It had never happened to me before. I was restless. I was shaking. I was shivering. My hands started to shake. Like it was just, and I was like, what is going on with me? And then I felt this uncontrollable urge to cry and I wanted to just scream. I ran into the bathroom. I locked up myself and I started crying loudly. And I remember just being there and I heard God talking to me to say, let me help you. I want to help you. On my website, when I wrote about scars, I am they, I was, it was that experience I was trying to relate when I said, because I got to the point where I actually, that I fell into like a trance or a vision or something where it felt like I saw my wounds. I have scars on my left arm and I felt like I saw my wounds, rotting away. And there was this huge cast over the wound. And God was saying, I want to take this off. It's going to hurt really bad, but I need to take it off. And I think he deliberately used that analogy for me because when I had this injury, I did have cast put on the injury. And they told me not to take it off until after a certain time. But then it started to stink and smell. And I remember when I had to go to the hospital to get it cleaned up, I remember someone, the nurses there telling me it's going to hurt really bad. But when they cut up the cast, and then they started pouring some stuff on the injury, it was very painful. It was more pain than I could bear, God knows. And then they started scraping off the wounds. It was a painful process, but when they were done, it was a fresh wound. And then they said, keep it open and let it air out. That's how you're going to heal and heal well. And that was what happened. So that vision just kind of came to me. And God was saying, I want to help you. But I was holding on and saying, please, no. I remember this pain, it is too much. I don't want to have to relive it. Because retelling it means I have to relive it. Retelling it means I have to let those emotions into myself. And he said, but it's killing you. The reason you're back to this point where you're thinking suicidal thoughts again is because this thing is killing you and you're not realizing it. And so I remember that was the day that he told me that I need you to obey me on this. And he gave me an acronym for obey. Own your, I wrote it down somewhere. I didn't plan to share that part, but I remember it was something about owning my experiences or something. I can't remember, but there was an acronym that came out of that. And that day I said, but God, nobody talks about these things. And he said, so you think? And even if there really is nobody talking about it, then be the first. And I said, but the church, I don't know how people will see me if I share these things. God, you've been there. I've tried to share before. You know how I was treated. I don't want to be that person again. And he said, well, leave them to me. I came up with all of these excuses. And the truth is, when I came home, I think I left work that day and I came home early. And I remember when I got home, I just got into bed and I cried and I said, God, if this is really what you want me to do, I give up. I will share. And that was the day I decided that come what may, moving forward, I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody feels. While I will, and because I now even started having people come to me to share experiences. And so for me, just seeing the brokenness in people made me realize to say, come on, these people need to be able to
your video is okay. Wow. Thank you so much for everyone that's joined tonight. Hope you're enjoying the discussion so far. I hope you have been touched. I hope you have been inspired that whatever experience you've been through is all for the greater good, and that whatever you're going through right now is also leading to something there. So learn to hone your experience. Now we're running out of time.
Okay.
And now I'll just hack this so that in case we don't cover it again. Through your experiences from your childhood, I know you had a rough childhood, from what you told us tonight, with your experience with your family, the home you came from, your father's death, the time you almost took your life, down to the time whereby you met God, and now, what kept you going all through till this point? Because, and the reason why we do ask is most times we share our story, but we forget to tell people what carried us through those periods. They are two different things. Going through this is different from during that time. Oh, this person helped me. Oh, I sought for help. You mentioned some of it, I know.
Yeah.
But, I want us to zero in on that. All through your experiences from your childhood till now. And I must say, you're strong. I salute your courage. What kept you through this time till now? What kept you going all through your experiences? We want to know. We would like to know.
Okay, so I'll go before Christ and after Christ. So before Christ, I would say before Christ and before my dad's passing, it was just this I don't know, it was just this resolve to say that all these people who have done something to me, I think it was before that, I think it was vengeance. There was this, vindictive spirit within me that said, one day I will grow up and I will come after you people. And then when my dad passed, there were things that were said from my family because they had issues with my maternal side. And so there were things that were said that I had to bear the brunt of it, because I guess maybe the hate for my mom was stronger than the love for my dad, that the hate was what I received, instead of the love that I had for my dad. All right. And I remember comments that were made, things like, you end up just like your mom. And again, that vindictive spirit in me just kept saying, I will prove you wrong. I think for me, one thing about me in life is just tell me something can't be done and I'm getting on it already. So maybe that's something that comes to me naturally, but I thank God for it because it helps me through life. And by the time I met God, it was just, there was this new resolve to live, because I felt like it would be unfair to God to have given me life that I did not give to myself, and for me to now take that life. So after I met Christ, that was one thing that really kept me going, to say, God, I don't want to disappoint you. No matter what it takes, I will live, I will fight. And then as time went on and I started seeing so much hurt and pain in the world, and I started seeing people casting their backs on God because of their experiences, it made me resolve to say, I will let people know that even in pain, God is with you. And I know it sounds very contradictory to what everything God stands for, but I wanted to let people know that pain is just part of life's process. What you've been through, is it fair? No. What you've been through, I remember one thing that helped me that I heard someone say one time was that instead of asking, that we all keep asking God, why me, why me? And those are questions I asked for the longest time. And the person said, why not you? He says that he won't give us any temptation that we're not able to bear if he let you go through it. Now, not to say that God caused those things. He doesn't. It's just the devil seeing our destinies tries to put things and people in our way to break us before we even get to our destination, right? But in those moments, God can still, out of that mess, take something out and still take you to where you need to be. And those things become byproducts of things that he will eventually use for his glory through your life, right? And so one of the things that helped me then too was just saying, if I could go through it and I'm still standing, I'm still alive, then it means there is something in me that has to just get out. And as a person who now knew Christ, I came to one conclusion, which is the devil will not be fighting me this hard if I didn't have something to offer to the world. So for every day I wake up, it's that, okay, I know that it's battle time. If I even when you're sleeping, it's battle time, all right? But and just knowing that at the back of my mind really helped me. Again, I talked about support system, right? Yeah. I was one who, even though I didn't really always tell people everything I was going through, I liked hanging around people a lot for just sometimes help me up, and lift my spirits. And by the time I became a Christian, one thing that I know that I sometimes did was I was sincere with God. If you peep into my prayer time, sometimes you just be laughing and wondering what is wrong with this person. Sometimes as we're talking, it's me and God talking to say, God, this is how I feel. This is what I'm going through. I don't like it. This person did this to me. I don't like it. After, I know you will say love them. I know you will say forgive them. And I'm not in the mood to forgive anybody right now. I had those discussions with God, just being sincere with him and being sincere with ourselves, and I have a mentor. I ran away from her so many times, but I always find myself back there, so there were all these things, there were all these people. And then as time went on, I started to share. And at this point in my life, one thing that helps is even just sharing the story. I know the first few times you try to share it feels painful, but after a while, it starts to, you start to realize with each time you share, you get a fresh perspective to what things really looked like, right? And so all of that put together really helps. One way that I know that I help myself to, and wholeness comes from there too. So right now I teach teens church. I have a website where I share more of these experiences, and I have conversations with people. I've had people whom I don't know reach out to me to say, hey, thank you so much for sharing this. I read this on your website. I read this on Facebook. It really helped me. And they share stuff with me. All right. So the more and those people help me. And when I got married, my husband is after God, I think that's my number one support system right now is everything I've been through, everything. The things that I did, the things that were done to me, the things that, happened, everything he's aware of. All right. And in 2018.
Good. One point there. Sorry,
Yeah, it's okay.
What would you have just a few minutes to go.
Sure.
What would
It's
you
okay.
advise couples or singles that are about getting married or couples that hide their past from their spouse or they are afraid to share? What would you tell them?
Well, if you're already married, I don't know what I'll tell you other than at any point you feel comfortable, maybe you should share. I don't know. But for those who are not married, I'd probably like to focus I know there's this fear that if we tell people, they would leave us. And I had some of those experiences. I'm frozen again, but if it's okay, I can still talk.
Oh, go ahead. We have just about 5 minutes to 4 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. So and I know there's that fear, but the truth is someone who cannot embrace all of you probably doesn't even deserve you to begin with. My husband wasn't the first man that I was in a relationship with, and definitely not the first that as a result I shared those things with. What I did was I didn't just meet someone and we're in a relationship and then I'm just downloading everything. No, sometimes you just give in bits and pieces, right? First of all, you study the kind of person. And then after a while, as things progress, intuitively, I think you would know. And even when you know, sometimes you can even just have discussions to say, hypothetical situations. What if this? Or if you see or read about a situation, try and strike a conversation with the person to have an idea of where that person, what they think about such situations, right? And it can give you an insight into what to expect when you share with them. All right. I remember, sharing with someone and all he heard was, you're no longer a virgin. And I'm like, wow, of everything, that's all you heard. This was 1 year into a relationship. Of course, I knew that person wasn't for me. Right. And I left. I ended it and I said, this is it. All right. So, and I don't hold it against the person because even being married to someone who's been through a lot of emotional pain and trauma and all of that in itself is a ministry, to be honest. There are times I have displayed things that you wouldn't imagine, but just even being able to be with someone like that in itself is a calling, to be honest with you. It is a calling because it is not easy. All right. So for people who are already, I don't think it's ideal because you don't know what can come up tomorrow.
True.
And then and there are marriages that have suffered these things where maybe one person tried to hide something and then something happens tomorrow, or someone shows up and says something and then you're now doing damage control. You're better off going in with a clean slate than, going in, because when you go in and not tell, the truth is that's deception, to be honest with you. I know not a lot of people would agree with that, but the reality is that is deception. So if you're already married, and you can maybe, if you're a person of faith, you can have a pastor come in and maybe help facilitate the discussion, whatever works for you. And of course, one thing that I'll say too, though, is, I know it sounds very cliche, but the truth is, it's what works is just pray before you even have that conversation to say, God, I know this will be heavy for this person, but the heart of kings, the Bible says, are in the hands of God, right? As rivers of water, he turns them as he pleases. God can soften their hearts to help you, have that conversation with them in a way that doesn't create conflicts because it creates openness and transparency, right? So,
Right.
and when there is that openness and transparency, it's even easier. And who knows, together, you might have a ministry.
We're running
Yeah,
out
it's
of
okay.
time. So just want to say thank you to everyone for coming tonight.